This conference will now be recorded.
Are we set?
A way to press the record button now.
Let's call a meeting to order. You want to take the roll, please?
Mayor Zakowski.
Here.
Alderman Kittle.
Here.
Alderman Vries.
Here.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Here.
Alderman Gartner.
Here.
Alderman Volkert.
Here.
Alderman Montello.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second that.
We're going to make, are we going to make that change or not, Michelle?
It doesn't look like they're on the call.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. No public comments tonight? Do you hear a motion to approve the consent agenda? And just want to mention that we got a donation of $10,000 from Max and Ann Kittle family for Citizen Field signs and future capital improvements at Citizens Field. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. New business, resolution number 082402, authorizing the issuance of sale of $7,565,000 general obligation promissory notes, series 2024A. Van first?
Yep.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packet and this evening, we are going to go over the results of our sale day report in regards to our debt issuance of $7.5 million, which supports our 2023 capital improvement projects through 2025. So again, this year we're borrowing ahead in anticipation of the future library project in 2025 as well. Staff, along with Ellers and Sean Lenz is here tonight. We did have a rating call with Moody's, who's our rating agency, on July 31st, which went very well. They did reconfirm our rating of AA2. As you'll recall, we were upgraded about a year and a half ago from AA3 to a AA2, so they reconfirmed that opinion and cited several areas of strong continued growth from our economic growth and population increase, along with our continued low debt per capita, strong financial management. Specifically called out as well was in regards to our fund balance management policy. So in the report that's contained in the packet this evening, it kind of talks about key drivers that could lead to a rating upgrade or a rating downgrade. In the past, they haven't specifically given us key metrics, but in this particular report they do, with a one aspect that could result in a downgrade is if our fund balance decreases below 30%, but they also gave us a target of 60% to look for a potential rating upgrade in the future. So I think some of those were certainly some key takeaways. Sean might have some additional to highlight, but the rating call went very well and it confirmed our credit rating, which led to some favorable bids that Sean will review with you now. So I'm going to turn it over to Sean. He'll go through the results of the sale day report today, which were very favorable, and then we'll be looking for a motion and address any questions the council has.
Great. Thank you, Rayanne. I do have hard copies of the sale day report, but otherwise, if we're going to put up on the screen, okay, great. So a couple things. Just one quick thing to add on the rating report from Rayanne that she had mentioned. In the report, they include what's called a scorecard. And the scorecard is their attempt to be as objective as they can to where the city's bond rating is. The scorecard indicated outcome for the city of New Richmond is actually a AA1, but your current rating is a AA2. Now that's not unusual. We see that in a number of instances. We also see the inverse. Sometimes communities have a rating that's higher than their scorecard indicated rating. So it can work both ways. The reason I mention it for you guys, just to piggyback a little bit on what Rayanne talked about, is it does certainly show that there's the possibility of going upward, even to that AA1 rating, which is only one below the highest rating that you can possibly get of AAA. So it was very good news, and I think, as Rand mentioned, that the discussion with them was overwhelmingly positive about what's going on in New Richmond. So that was great. So with that as a background, we put out this morning for sale the $7,565,000, and if we go a couple more pages back to the one titled Bid Tabulation, you can see the bids. There we go. A couple more back. And I think it's one more. Oh, one more. There we go. So we ended up getting 7 bids this morning, and the winning bid, which is up on the screen right now, was a bid that was headed by Baird out of Milwaukee, but you'll see they had a bunch of other bidders who were working with them in what's called a syndicate to put their bid together. Their bid had a true interest rate of just a little bit over 3.65%. If you look at the other bids that are on the second page, you'll see that they're very close to that 3.65% interest rate. Thanks, they're up on the screen right now. You'll also notice the bids are from all over the country. And again, that's
Don, have you got some paper copies? This is really hard to read.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Go. I'll just wait a minute for those to
Thank you.
come around. So just so everybody's on the same page, we're on the bid tabulation results from the competitive sale of the $7,565,000 issue this morning. So the last point I was going to make on the bid, 7 is a very strong number to see that many bidders for the city's issue, and they're from all over the country. Another benefit of having an excellent rating like the city does is because of that strong rating, bidders all over the place who may not even know exactly where New Richmond is other than it's in Wisconsin, but they're willing to potentially invest in the debt of the city because they're very, very comfortable with a community that has a strong, excellent rating at that AA2 level. Now, if we go to the next page, just add a couple last things to hit on for review.
Don, I just want to ask you a question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
The bid tabulation page, so those numbers that are on there are all Baird's numbers. You've got all the, or is that the syndicate there? All the names are just that's the syndicate.
Yeah, if you go, if we can go back one page, just for those following on the screen, the way the bid is formulated is Baird's the head of the syndicate.
Yep.
They're the ones who are actually putting in the bid, but they just acknowledge that all these other firms are going to buy immediately some of the debt, and they'll take some of the issue.
That's good.
Yep,
Thank
okay. So if we can go 2 pages forward, Michelle. Perfect. Now this one, I'm glad we did the handout because it is a little bit difficult to see on the screen. The main thing I wanted to highlight for the council this evening on this exhibit is really in the middle of the page. When we did the pre-sale report about a month ago for the financing for the 23, 24, 25 projects like Rayanne mentioned, in the pre-sale report, we had interest rates, the true interest rate estimated about 4.52%. A couple things have happened. The market's moved in our direction pretty favorably since we last talked about this issue. And so with the sale results, again, that winning bid from Baird, the interest rate is at 3.66%. So that's a significant improvement. And so that results in lower total costs in interest expense over the 20-year term to repay the debt. We would be locked into the interest rates that were bid as part of the Baird bid. But if you wanted to, if the city wanted to, starting in 2032 and later, you could refinance the debt. So that's your option. interest rates stay higher than what the Baird bid shows, the winning bid shows, we can continue to pay on this schedule through the whole 20 years. But starting in that 2032 and later, if we had extra money, we could make prepayments if we want to do that, or if lower interest rates were available, we could refinance. But again, that's your option. If you don't want to take advantage of it, you can just pay throughout the entire 20 years. So that was very good results. Again, we're very pleased with that. The last page I wanted to touch on, and just this was in the pre-sale report as well, was we had a chart that showed the existing debt that the city has that you're levying to pay. And then we had a chart in that pre-sale report that showed the impact of the new debt being added on top of the existing debt that the city's done in the past. So this is the debt levy portion that's part of your general fund budget. In the previous chart, we were expecting the payments to have to go up a little bit over the next couple of years, but stay fairly close to the total levy amount, which is about $1,470,000, I think, this year in your general fund budget. With the results of the sale, again, because the interest rates are lower than what we had projected, we are expecting to be able to keep that levy at that same level next year for your debt and the next couple years thereafter. The only thing this chart doesn't show, and I know we've worked with the council on this and some other projections, is if you have future CIP, we will have some incline on the total debt levy at some point, but this issue that we're talking about today will not be driving that. It would be a future project and projects that the city would be looking at, probably in the 2026 and later timeframe. Mayor, what would be needed tonight, certainly any questions we can talk about before taking action, but I believe the council has the resolution. It's in your packet. This was prepared by the city's bond counsel, and what would be needed to accept the best bid from Baird is approval of that resolution to lock into the results that I was just reviewing. But before that, if there's any other comments that Rayanne or Noah has or any questions from the council, happy to talk about that first. Oh,
Sean,
yep.
So
Sure.
Sean, that chart there
Yes.
is in consideration that we do no more borrowing.
At this point, this particular chart is, you may remember, Craig, when we had the meeting about kind of the CIP planning going forward, we did have some future issues that had an impact starting in 27 and later that did go up, depending on what ultimate projects the city decides to move forward with. Right.
I'm curious about the repayment schedule.
Yeah.
How come it's not, it's not like a mortgage?
Right.
Curious about the rationale behind that.
Yeah, so can I have you go back, Michelle, one page? Perfect. So again, not everyone will probably be able to see this on the screen. There was a couple things that we've been looking at over the last couple years when we combine a bunch of different projects into a single issue, Mike. So the couple things we're keeping in mind is the useful life of the projects that the city is financing, because we have some in this financing will have a useful life of 20 years or longer, but we also have projects that have a far shorter useful life. And the idea in blending the projects together is we want to be sensitive to that so that we don't have debt outstanding being repaid for projects that are already being out of use for the city. So what that leads to, and what you're seeing in the schedule, is a little bit of a front-end loading on the paying back of the principal of the debt. And then the other item is, as Rayanne just alluded to, the bid we received today, when we get the bids, we get two things. We get the interest rates and we get the price that the bidder is willing to pay for the bonds. In the current market conditions, we commonly, and we did today, get what's called a premium. So we're using that premium to pay interest payments in 25 and 26 to a degree on the debt. What that allows us to do is also push up even more principal to try to pay that faster, because some of the expense that the city has, we already have put in the bank to pay interest payments over the next couple of years. So all of that, Mike, leads to, I think, what you're recognizing in the schedule is it's not an exact same payment every year that you might expect on a mortgage. But this is not unusual, and it's very common for municipal debt like this to have a irregular payment schedule.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we approve this resolution. I see it doesn't have a number, but it's authorizing the issuance and sale of $7,565,000 in general obligation promissory notes, Series 2024A. Does that cover it, Sean?
It does. Yep.
Any further questions? Not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Alderman Breeze.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
yes,
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, we're going to have Melissa Meschke, St. Croix EDC President, and she's going to discuss St. Croix housing study.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to come to your meeting tonight. For those of you I haven't had the chance to meet yet, my name is Melissa Meschke. I'm the Executive Director of St. Croix Economic Development Corporation. I've been in the role since January, so about 8-9 months in, really loving it and loving everyone that I'm getting to work with. So really exciting to meet all of you tonight. One of the things that has consistently come up in my meetings throughout the last 8 months has been housing. We all know that there are a shortage of available units as well as an affordability issue that comes up quite often. When I get businesses that are coming to locate here, one of the first questions they ask is, where is everybody going to live? So in that, I worked with my board at the EDC to propose that we champion a housing study. This housing study will cover the entire county. From my understanding, that's actually never been done before. We've never done a county-wide housing study. So really exciting to bring all the municipalities together for this housing study. We are working with the West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. Recently, they did one for Polk County. So if you saw those results at all, that's going to be similar to ours. Ours won't be quite as detailed as what they had. Theirs was quite a bit more expensive, but we're working with them to make it the best for St. Croix County. Within our housing study, we will get 21 municipal focus areas. So any municipality with 1,000 people or more will get a kind of special feature in that, diving into that community specifically. You guys were given the white paper, from my understanding, which kind of delivers or explains the deliverables as well as our timeline. We're aiming for the end of Q1 in 2025 to get these results. So pretty quick in the terms of studies as they go. Really excited to have a pretty accelerated timeline for this project. It also outlines what we're looking for the municipalities in the county. So I have made a request to every municipality in the county for $2,000 towards the study. The study is costing us about $40,000. That's to commit the study as well as do the marketing afterwards to get the results out. I do have a $10,000 commitment from St. Croix EDC, as well as a $10,000 commitment from the county directly. I do have commitments from Town of Richmond, Village of Hammond, a tentative commitment from Somerset, a tentative commitment from, check my notes, there was one more, Village of Baldwin. I do have a private donation from Baki Norman for the project as well. And we do have a donation from City of River Falls too. So we have been working our way through councils and trying to get the approval of the municipalities. One of the benefits of the municipalities that do contribute to our study is they will be highlighted as one of the sponsors for the project. So I've already talked to Susan at the Planning Commission, reserving space for advertising the communities that are helping us pay for this project. Additionally, when we go on to do the marketing of the results, we'll pay special attention to the municipalities that contribute to the project. When we have Susan come here from the Planning Commission, highlighting those communities that have contributed to the project. I think that was everything I wanted to cover. What questions does everyone have?
Melissa, how much time would this take of city staff if they had to assist you with this?
This is going to take no city staff time. We're working directly with the Planning Commission. The EDC is managing the project from start to finish. Really, the only ask would be at the end when we're presenting the results to help us gather a meeting of people from the community that want to hear the results from the housing study. Otherwise, there's no request of time.
In a nutshell, what do you think, how is this going to benefit the city?
Yeah, great question. So the benefit of doing a county-wide housing study is to really give us a really big picture of the entire county. So I know that River Falls, as well as New Richmond, has recently done your own housing study. The nice thing about doing a countywide one is it really does give us a picture of all the municipalities in the county. I'm a big believer that a win for St. Croix County is a win for St. Croix County. So the more we can work together and share that information, the better it is for all of us, in my opinion. So when we get this countywide study, it really is going to give us a great snapshot beyond just individual larger municipalities that have done their own study.
Yeah, Melissa, as I sit here, I think Richmond does a pretty good job of housing, taking care of the housing problem ourselves. And I credit a lot of that to the community development we have here in the city. They do a terrific job. For example, right now we have what's called Francis Fields. It's a large development on the north side of New Richmond. That's going to be going in. We just completed BB Lofts, a large apartment complex right down on Knowles Avenue. We have a 103-unit apartment unit going in on the north side. We'll be having a large development going in on County Road A, where all the turkey barns used to sit. We have two huge apartment buildings on the south side of Quicker that have been recently put in. We have development going on the south side of Double G out by the schools. And then we have our new library with several apartments going up over that, 3 stories of apartments. So I think we're doing a pretty good job here ourselves, taking care of the housing problem in New Richmond ourselves. And I don't know if it's necessary. We did a study here in the city back in 2022 that was $13,000 to do that, but we had a $5,000 grant, so that knocked that down to $8,000. I just can't see how, and it sounds good what you want to do, but as far for the city here, I can't justify myself spending another $2,000 of taxpayer money when I don't think it's really going to benefit us much at all.
And I will definitely give kudos to New Richmond. You guys are doing a great job with housing. So in no way is this study meant to knock any of the work that anyone is doing. So just wanted to clarify that.
Melissa, first of all, I want
And
to,
again, go ahead.
go ahead, Ron.
Go ahead, Mike, that's fine.
First of all, I want to welcome you to New Richmond. Getting to meet you last week, I'm excited for the possibilities for the St. Croix EDC and the with your leadership there.
Thank you.
I'm going to echo a number of the things that Alderman Volkert said to you. Apparently we're not the only community in the county that was proactive and did a housing study, which we had updated last year. The struggle, to put it, to really be blunt about it, is that if I was clairvoyant, I would say that the results of this study will show that there's a shortage of workforce housing.
Yes, it will.
And I should go in the business. Sean, you're a consultant. What can I charge for that? But anyhow, and I'm not to make light of that. We know that there's a shortage of workforce housing. I'd love for somebody to tell me, what do you do about it? Because apparently the answer is apartments. And I think that if we think about workforce housing in the lens of history, 50 years ago, there were people who were buying starter homes. And that really isn't the economics available today. I know that the city has set some money aside for housing initiatives to kind of grapple with that. But somehow we need to come up with an answer. So the city's been proactive. Folks here pay St. Croix County tax. They've paid for a housing study to be done here. And in essence, this is the 3rd time we would ask them to participate. And in no way is there any ill will suggested towards what you're doing. I don't think it's a bad goal. I actually think that the city should be able to do more for whoever's doing the housing study to provide them with the housing study we did so that they can look at New Richmond and say, okay, we've got that area covered. And that hopefully would save you some costs. I don't know. But we've paid for a study. We just had it refreshed last summer. That's what I'd like to see our contribution to be. And in no way am I wishing you anything but success here. So I want to say that.
Yeah, and actually you spurred me a chunk of my little pitch that I missed was talking about what the housing study does. So I'm not, I totally hear you in your points, but I do want to clarify, the point of doing a countywide housing study. Polk County is a great example. So if you've been following what's happening in Polk County, they've had a tremendous amount of development that has occurred after this plan. So what it does is it allows outside parties to look at the opportunities within St. Croix County, and you can look, okay, we're missing workforce housing, we're missing that missing middle, we're looking at redevelopment projects, what are the opportunities? Volkert online, like Alderman Volkert said, you guys have been very proactive. You've got a lot of great things going on. And my timing is a little bit off in the sense of asking you for money, and I understand that. And I definitely do hear you.
Yeah, not to debate, Mike, about what do we do for developing more workforce housing? It isn't, it's high-density housing. So are there other options besides just apartments to create some high-density housing? I think we all, including the county, need to look at alternatives to just apartments. Could be done. But I understand that developers right now in our area aren't really wanting to build high-density housing because the profits are not there compared to everything else they're building. And right now, they can't build them fast enough the way it is. So it's difficult for us to solve the workforce housing issue, but I think we still have to work at it.
Don't disagree at all. I don't disagree at all. My comments really have to do with, is there a way to develop housing that is affordable to what you would call workforce housing? When this conversation started a number of years ago, and I'm thinking workforce housing, I'm going to, a little bit anachronistic, starter homes. Apparently that doesn't really exist anymore. Or if it does, the price point is something way beyond anything I would imagine a starter home to be. So you're right. The economies that are present right now tip to building apartments type structures. And obviously we need that in our community for sure. But I think that the issue remains, I think this is a worthwhile goal for the county EDC to do, and I want it to be successful. I think there are something that we could do that's maybe besides giving them $2,000, just because of the work that we have done to support the cause.
Question to you, would having our city study so that you're not kind of redoing this city, are you able to integrate that into the county?
So we're able to give all of that information to the Planning Commission, and they take that into consideration for their data. It won't save any money, but it will be integrated into that data. So we plan on sending them yours as well as River Falls and putting that data into the plan. And I can't tell you exactly what that's going to look like when they take that in there, but it is going to be presented to them, yes. Because you have done a lot of work.
I guess my opinion would be, if we can learn one or two things for $2,000, that'd be worthwhile to me. If this was $22,000, probably not. But for $2,000, if we could, you guys have questions about how we're gonna get this done between you two. So if we could learn a couple things from this for $2,000 and a county-wide informational system, I think for $2,000, it's not that bad a bargain. That's my opinion.
Craig, you don't think $2,000 is a lot of money? You just said it's not that much.
We just spent $7.9 billion on well, never mind. $7.5 million on loans for $2,000. If we can learn something, which we will learn something.
We spent $7.5 million on what? Did you say? I didn't hear that.
On borrowing for the next couple of years. So
Yeah.
I just think for a couple $1,000s, we will learn something out of this. I don't know if it's going to be a golden parachute for the city in Richmond, that's everything's going to be perfect after this study, but.
The way you say it, well, $2,000 isn't that much money. Well, it's taxpayer dollars and it all adds up. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of people out there that are going to agree with you and, well, it's not that much.
Melissa, I have a question for you. I know your asking is $2,000, and you said you're getting some donations from other communities in a lesser amount, I'm assuming.
One of them was
Pete-
lesser, yes.
Pete,
those are.
if Ron can hear you, you might want to really,
I think I'm talking into a mic here. I'm just wondering if we had a little bit of time maybe to discuss this, like in a work session, and perhaps be able to come up with something. I think $2,000 is probably out of our range right now, but I guess I would like to get into some sort of a discussion with the council. So if it maybe be appropriate, I would consider moving this to table and discuss it again at our work session in 2 weeks. Is that I move to do that.
yeah, do we need a second? I'll second that.
Other further discussion on this?
No more discussion.
There's no discussion when you table. There's no discussion.
Yep.
Nick, can we have media question for the speaker? Can we have a media question from for the speaker?
Table if second is not debatable.
Right?
Oh, but
No,
Tom
we're not
Linforth
debating
had
that.
his hand up,
Okay.
prior to this.
If you want to recognize, if the chair wants to recognize Tom beforehand, that's fine. But no additional debate.
Yeah,
Table is before the council.
right, yeah,
Did have his hand up a moment ago.
he did. Prior to the motion.
Raise a little bit higher.
Yes. Yes, those would be both accurate statements. So the white page, if you can go, so it says needs assessment, toolbox, the snapshot, and then the housing snapshot for municipalities. So the toolbox is the piece, from my understanding, that's intended to do that. So presenting different solutions to the housing results that they find. And yes, the other part of this is to market St. Croix County. We'll be able to put it on our website. We'll do press releases. We'll get the information out there. It's also presentable at a statewide level. You know, if we find some really cool things, maybe I can do a presentation at a future conference, for example. So this type of presentation helps me in my job a lot to be able to market St. Croix County as well. So yes, very accurate. We're consistently one of the fastest growing counties in Wisconsin, so we're usually 1 or 2. So we do have eyes on us, and we do have people paying attention to the housing. Oh,
I'm only hearing Melissa. I'm not hearing anybody else. Am I missing something?
there was someone in the audience that had a question, so and he didn't have a mic.
It was Tom Linforth, Ron, the newspaper.
Okay.
So you say you're going to market this to St. Croix County?
Let's just either table this or not. We need to vote on the table.
Out there.
I'm just asking a question. It's
Well, that
not
would
going to
not-
pertain to the vote. If we don't do this, you still going to market New Richmond?
Yes, there's
Jeez,
technically no
okay.
consequence if you do not contribute to the study, but there will be benefits to contributing to the study, such as highlighting you as a sponsor.
Okay. You want to take the roll, please?
Yes, Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
No.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
No.
Alderman Montello.
Yes,
Alderman Kittle.
No.
I'll break the tie and say yes. At the work session. I'm assuming that was 3-3, right?
Yes, it was. Yep,
Yeah, I'll
It was
break the
3-3.
tie and say yes at the work session.
this is some high-end math.
perfect.
You sure you don't need a graphing calculator?
We need Sean for this one too. This is,
Well, thank you very much for
Thanks,
your time
Melissa.
tonight. I appreciate it.
Coming and best of luck to you.
thank you. Thank you.
Next item is bids for Freedom Park Trail.
Yeah, good evening. Staff put out plans and specifications for the bidding of the Freedom Park Trail, or for the paving of the Freedom Park Trail, excuse me. This time of year, it's a little bit of a guesswork on how many bids we're gonna get, because contractors usually focusing on finishing up work for this year and that sort of thing. So we were pleasantly surprised to get 5 separate bids on this project, ranging from just over $148,000 all the way up to $193,000. The low bidder was Stout Construction. I have worked with them a number of times in the past, and I wouldn't have any concerns with them being able to complete this work. So at this time, if the council would like to move forward with the paving of the Freedom Park Trail, it would be our recommendation to award it to Stout Construction. And they're out of Chautauqua.
Eric, do you just want
So
to
what's our
mention
cost?
do you just want to mention the timeline for the purpose
Yeah,
of the
so
bidding?
we, kind of pushing towards the end of the year, not knowing contractors' work schedules, we did leave the deadline for completing the project into next summer.
Okay.
So they do have the option of starting the work next spring and completing in the summer.
I'd make a motion to accept the bid from Stout Construction for $148,000.
I'll second that.
And then some of that would, what, is the 148 after impact fees can be taken off? That's the bid, the gross bid?
That's the total price.
Okay.
Yep. So about a third of the project could be funded through impact fees.
Okay.
The balance would be borrowed funds.
Okay.
That would be about 98,000.
Yeah, roughly. Yep.
So what's the total cost of the city then?
About 100, Ron.
98,000 approximately.
$100,000.
Well, actually, Ron, I don't think
Ron,
Ron, let me just
Yeah,
say
we
this,
didn't-
you're not getting the right answer. Impact fees belong to the city, so the cost of the city is $149,000.
Yeah, you're right.
The
Okay.
question you answered is, how much would we have to borrow
Correct.
to do the project?
Okay.
But the cost to the city
So it's
is,
$149,000.
correct.
Yes.
Without using any impact fees.
Well, here's the way I look at it. Now, did we get a second on this? We're in discussion
Yes.
right now, aren't we?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did.
it's for discussion.
We're in
Okay.
discussion.
$149,000 to do that trail up there, to finish the trail. I just think there's a lot of other places in the city that can use that money instead. I'm driving down West 8th. I've driven down there several times, busy times of the day when kids are coming and going from school. There's no sidewalks down there. Those kids are walking in the street by Grace Place in that area. And I just think we have better places to spend money right now than up there finishing off that trail.
Ron, I will agree with you. We have a lot of needs in the city. I know our Public Works, at one of our committees even a year ago, talked about just maintenance of the trails we currently have. I would much rather spend $100,000 maintaining what we have as opposed to just building brand new again and letting the ones that we have deteriorate to a point where we're gonna have to just entirely redo them. So I would be much more in favor of taking this money and putting it towards some maintenance of the trails we currently have.
And Pete, I totally agree with that too. That's totally acceptable with me. We have to maintain the trails we have now. I know some of the trails need that maintenance quite bad right now, and I agree with you.
I think the biggest problem we've had is that over the years, it's been brought forward every single year, money to maintain the trails, just like our streets. We never brought the amount we should have. 8 years ago, we talked about this. At that time, we needed $300,000 a year to just maintain our streets, patching and everything else. So we put down maybe 50,000, shorted it. So what happens? Everything starts falling apart because we're afraid to spend the money to make the streets and trails, keep that up to date all the time. But no, we're not going to put that in there. We've done it with our streets, and now you say put it in the trails, but the problem is we should have been doing this every single year, and it was never brought forward on either issue ever. That's where things fall apart. Now I think this year, with the streets, we're doing what, 175, 150, 175, right in there. And 8 years ago, it should have been 300,000. So now we're gaining a little bit, but we're falling behind all the time because we have over 65 miles of streets in the city, and we don't look at maintaining them ever. That's the problem. And yeah, we can stop building trails for people to use in the community because we say we have to patch our trails. But my question was, and I asked a couple of people about this, this is the only thing that we would borrow for our whole park system this year, for all of our park systems. This is it. In the last 5 years, I don't think we've borrowed money for any specific things. It's either through impact fees or through, up by Hatfield, the campground there. But otherwise, the council has never put money through for things we need. I think Craig said out at Fox Run, is that Fox Run?
Yep.
Talked about a park out there for 5, 6 years,
Yeah, if not more.
but money's never put forward for these things. It's all through impact fees. But we have a growing community. Our new population estimate is 11,050 people. We know it's more than that already. And like Ron said, we're gonna get this 103-unit apartment building. Above the libraries and the apartments, we're gonna be over 12,000 probably in a year and a half. But we have to look, we get a lot of young families coming in our community, and we always say, well, we don't have time for you. We did that study of 8 different things that council looked at. Parks and recreation for a council is number 7. When we had the same thing for the community, parks and recreation and trails was number 2. So do we ever listen to the citizens, what they ask for? Is it all just infrastructure? They expect that to happen. But like I said, we've got a young mobile community coming here. We're getting more families all the time. And to me, we ignore them all the time, what they're asking for the community. People are out on the trails all the time, I think. You can verify that, Greg.
I can. I'm out there almost every day and see people, and, you know, they have questions about, you know, in fact, I just happened to be on that trail earlier this week and rode right up to the end. And one of the comments I had when we had talked about this a few months back was we had gotten that work done for these trails, and if you don't use that work, they start changing, and that's part of the problem. If you don't put the tar on them, they're definitely going to change, and now we have extra work that needs to be done. I think I understood that, but people are out there any time of the day. If you're out there at 6 in the morning, there's people on those trails. If you're out there all day long, there's people, there's kids, there's adults, there's people, you know, walking with their strollers and stuff. And our community does appreciate that, and there are literally probably hundreds, if not thousands, of people that use them all the time. And so I personally think this is a very small but a very, excuse me, a very important investment for our community.
Ron, did you want to say something?
And all this is all this is a good reason why we should take that money right now and maintain the trails we have. We have a lot of trails right now that need maintenance. And Jim, I don't like it when you say that we ignore people. This council does not ignore people. But I think that we have to maintain what we have too. And we have the opportunity now to do that with some of this money, this $149,000.
Well, a third, a fifth, well, almost 50,000 you can't use, impact fees you can't use for maintaining. It has to be for new projects.
Yeah.
So you can't use 50,000 of that for maintaining trails.
Well, then we still have 100,000 left over, and we could use that to maintenance on the trails.
We don't have 100,000 left over because we haven't put anything through maintenance.
You're breaking up. Explain that to me again. You're breaking up. You said what about the 150,000?
Could you hear me, Ron?
Well, I couldn't hear you before, but I'll try it again. Put that mic up close to you.
Like I said, I don't know if you heard that, 50,000 is impact fees, and it can't be used for maintenance. It has to be used for new projects.
Okay.
But
Well, then
nobody's ever asked
that
for
means
maintenance on our trails ever. That's our first problem. We've never had that asked for maintaining our trails or upgrading them, crack filling, anything like that. It's never come forward, just like Like I mentioned, our streets are in the same shape because we don't put the money in and it costs us more in the end. That's what always happens. We think we're saving money now. When we do build that, finish that trail, it's probably gonna cost at least twice as much. Nothing goes down.
Well, I'd just like to chime in here. You know, a comment that Ron made about, you know, it's probably disingenuous when you say, Mayor, you know, the council doesn't care about the citizens of our community.
No, I said they're not listening. I don't say.
Okay, all right.
They're not
That we
listening
don't,
to
that
the
we don't
community.
listen because I don't just hear, I get hammered about what we do with people's money. And you made an interesting comment. We don't put money aside for streets. No, we choose to spend it on something else, and that's what we're talking about tonight. More people use the streets than use the trails. Does that mean trails aren't important? Absolutely not. But you've already addressed something. We're behind in street maintenance. We just talked recently about alley maintenance, which a number of years ago we adopted, we were going to do this, and then that went by the boards.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it's not an issue of we don't ever spend money on things. No, we look at the levy and here's the money we have to spend and then allocating it for things. And I think at the end of the day of this particular conversation is paving a trail. The trail exists. It's not like there's no trail there. There's a trail there, okay? But paving that stretch of ground is more important than street or alley repair. It's more important than putting a sidewalk up on West 8th Street. I just give you that as an example. We got lots of needs. And I really think the point you're making is we're not willing to and I'm going to be careful. I'm not trying to use explosive words here, but we're not willing to just grow the budget so we can put the money aside that you're talking about. No, we choose to do other things with it. I'm a big believer in we establish priorities. The whole picture. Does that mean that parks gets ignored? No, it doesn't mean parks get ignored. But if you say to me, paving this stretch of gravel is more important than street repair, alley repair, or the 20-some miles of trail we already have right now to maintain it, that makes zero sense to me. So.
Well, just a quick question. Jim made a point about priorities, and you're correct, Mike. We choose priorities. I think Jim's point might be, would the community choose the same priorities as the council does? His answer would probably be, I think they would. I think they would say, we need more money in parks. We need more money in trails. We need more money. We don't need to save. We don't need to cut. A certain segment of the population, you're exactly right. They would say, cut everything, down to the bone. I want one person working there. That's it. Somebody to answer the phones. That's all we need at the city. But Jim's point is, are we listening to, not that we're ignoring their wishes. I think sometimes we have our set of priorities on the council level, and the citizens' priority levels might be a little bit different. I think that's what Jim was trying to say.
Fair enough. But I will tell you, when the council is surveyed on how they rank the projects, I'm going to assume that everybody here does the same thing I do. Okay, we've got a fixed amount of money to work with.
Yep.
When you ask the public, how do you rank those projects? Does one person come up and say, hey, I'm getting ready to fill out my sheet. I want to know what's the financial impact of if we do this, right? In your household, in my household, if I make a decision to do something, I have to understand what the financial impact is.
Yeah.
It's really easy to pick things with thinking there's no financial impact to it. And really my point is this. I don't think spending money on parks is a poor use of funds at all. We have a lot of money that we've borrowed for parks that we're paying the interest on right now. The city has made, I think, an incredible investment in trails in the city of Richmond. We have a trail there. I thought it was interesting what Greg said. You know, there's people on that trail all the time. Well, what's the issue? It's not paved. There's people on it all the time. So again, that doesn't mean someday should there be pavement on it? No. But if you said, if you could probably pick 5 projects that are currently unfunded in the city of Richmond right now and say, boy, that's more important than that is. That's really what the point is. These impact fees, I think it's important for people to understand, yep, they're money that are paid by development of property, right? And yes, they can't be used for street repair. You're spot on, Mayor. But they can be used for other things that may actually have a higher priority than this does, right? So that's all that I'm saying. I think that my position is that we have a fixed amount of dollars. And the only way you can change that is to say, well, we're not going to look at this cap. And I will say if it's levy limits or however it is we look at the budget, every time in budget, we start with this fixed number, right? Like this is what we can do kind of within, am I saying it right, Rayanne? In terms of the established parameters for us. And of course the budget, and I'm sorry for folks, if you're watching at home, you can't see this. The budget request comes in here, but we got to start, this is our deal. And the only way we can get around that is to turn around and borrow more money to do these projects. And one other thing, Craig, you made the comment about, I don't remember how you said it, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, about saving. We have to save. I don't know if you heard earlier when Rayanne said that we got a star, I'll say it that way, from the rating agency because we have this 40% goal. And it's a goal, we're not there yet, right?
Definitely. We get better money because we have
did
per capita debts in the state.
Did you hear what they said about what they want to see it? They want it at 60%. Now, are we going to get there? Lord knows.
Well, I
don't
hope
know.
not.
I don't know how but the point is it wrong to say, let's invest money where the return is the greatest? And I'm talking about in our community. I'm not talking about, at a bank kind of a thing. And that's all. We have a trail there. Greg, you're right. There's probably going to be some erosion because there's not asphalt on it. But I just think that if you made a list of projects, and I think we could do it pretty easily, not that we need to do it now, I don't think this is the priority. That's all.
I'll just say this one quick thing. We've been working on this for, I don't know how long, 5-6 years at the least on the park board level. We've ranked our projects for years. This continually is always one of the highest projects that we have, is finishing that trail. And I think at the time, it would probably have cost maybe $70,000 to finish that trail. And it got put off. And then 90, and then it got put off. And then 100, and then it got put off. And now it's 149, and it got put off. And we've been talking about this trail on that park board level for a long time to just get it finished. And that's what I want. I just want it finished.
I think one of the problems with anything, besides the trail, any other projects, parks at Fox Run, been talking about 5 or 6 years, there's so much in impact fees you have, but you need a major chunk to go along with that. Because with the impact fees, they can maybe do a dozen small projects every year and it's gone. So there's not this huge amount left over all the time because all they can do is small projects. They can put a fire out here, there, and everywhere else, but the parks never get any major funding for a major project. That's the way it's been because we always say other things are important, and they are important. I don't say they aren't.
We've contributed money as a city a couple of times in the last maybe 10 years, but it was because we had grants. It was because we got some 50-50s or some 80-20s that we had to put our 20% in or our 50% in. Other than that, it really hasn't gone very far as the city kicking money in for parks. We've matched some grants that are good trails and are really nice trails that we got grants for. But I don't know. I just want this thing done, and the more we put it off, the more it's going to be. It's just going to be more expensive next time we bid this out. It just is. Ask Greg about the schools and how much the first high school was going to cost and how much the actual high school cost, and we wasted about $40 million in 10 years. Not wasted, but
And
Just
that goes for anything too.
You're
as
right.
being more expensive. I mean, if to cut it short, I really think this money could be used better someplace else. To putting it in someplace else, and if we don't make some repairs, they're going to be more expensive next time too. But I just think there's other areas that this money could go now than, other than on that trail.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. When I said there's people on the trails, I didn't say they were on that dirt trail up there. I go on every trail in this town. People are all over the trails, but I have people that when I'm up there saying, when are you gonna get this done? When are you gonna finish this? Now, I think I heard a couple people, just to clarify, say, well, it would be better if we spent this money on repairs. Well, if we're not gonna spend it on the new one, let's amend this thing and spend it to repair the other trails then or something. I mean, that, if, I think I heard Ron say that, and I'm not sure, Mike, if you said that or not, but,
Public Works has already put that forth as a
Yeah.
recommendation to the council to put money for trail repair, specifically trail maintenance, at a meeting within the last couple months.
yeah.
And alley
And
maintenance.
we've talked about that,
And alley
Yes.
repair.
alley repair. So, I mean, we have this in front of us, and he said, well, shouldn't we use that for that? Well, couldn't we make a motion to do that tonight? And
So I
change
can,
this and do that
I
or
can
not?
address that. So,
Help me out here.
for this project, again, that 150,000, about a third of that is eligible for park impact fees. The park impact fees can still be used for other park projects, so something like the park and Fox Run. There's other projects identified in our impact fee study. The balance of the borrowed funds, that was included in the 7.5 that was approved earlier this evening. That isn't necessarily designated to that project. So if there is another capital project out there that the council wanted to use those dollars towards, you could do that. You wouldn't have to take action on it tonight, but it's not to say that it couldn't go towards whether it be trail maintenance, alley maintenance, some other type of capital project.
So you're saying that the money that we approved, this 198,000, whatever, is already in that money that we approved earlier? Is that what you're saying?
We would have used the estimate from the CIP. So it wouldn't reflect the 149, it would have been based off of that, the smaller.
And the estimate was what, 116?
Right, but then again, take out the impact fee portion, so it would have been less. But
Greg-
if there was another capital project, again, that the council wanted to put those borrowed funds towards, you could certainly do that.
Greg, I absolutely agree with you. I think it should be done. I think that needs to go through the Public Works Committee for trail maintenance, alley maintenance, but I do think that now that we have this money already approved to be borrowed, that we specifically use this money to get some of our trails maintained, to get some of our alleys fixed. Sidewalk repairs where we need. So I 100% agree with you, and I think we should have a Public Works meeting in the very near future to make sure that that money gets designated.
So let's vote on this one here, and then you,
Well, the vote is to accept the bid.
pardon?
The motion was to accept the bid.
Yeah, it is. There's been no adjustment. I'm just
Yeah.
talking.
So if we don't accept the bid, it can come back to any kind of agenda item on any kind of.
Take the roll, please.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Oh.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
No.
Alderman Montello,
No.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
No,
Motion doesn't pass.
I'll move to, let's see, we've got
That,
motion
it's not on the
to,
agenda? Can we do it
I
at the work
move to
session?
reject the bids. I think we have to have a
Just
motion.
did that.
But we're not discussing that tonight, putting that in.
Point of
So
order?
you would want a motion to reject the bids, so we notify the bidders that we weren't moving
I'll
forward
second that
with
motion.
Previous motion was to accept the
the
bids.
accept,
That's
yeah.
not made. I need to
Right.
make a motion to reject the bids.
And I seconded your motion.
Roll, please.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
No.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
A motion passes. Next item, 2024 second quarter tourism funding recommendations.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, we have, Excel is on via virtually. So if it would be okay, we could move 7.6 to the next agenda item.
So this item is in regards to a request for an easement. This would be as part of an Xcel Energy gas line project running along Knowles Avenue. We wanted to bring this forward to the council. Obviously, it's a visible project going through city property. You're right here by Glover Park. So we didn't want to just put it on the consent agenda, just wanted to bring this to your attention. And so there is a representative from Xcel on the phone if you have any questions for them about the project, about their timeline. But otherwise included in the agenda packet is the as a certified survey map showing the location of the easement. So that'd be on the first page following the memo. You can see that also on the screen here. So really running along the east side of the bridge here near the Willow River. So the recommendation from staff would be to approve the request for the easement. And again, if you have any questions for Xcel about the project itself, feel free to ask.
I do want to ask, so this is a natural gas line that you're burying or seeking to bury. Just out of curiosity, what drives the need for this?
Yeah, hey, Bill Line, I'm project manager with Xcel. I could try to answer that. So it's an aging gas main that we have existing today that's attached to the underside of the bridge. So it's generally due for replacement right now. But primarily for safety reasons and maintenance reasons, just accessing that pipe under that bridge. We've been, working towards just generally getting all of our facilities off bridges. So that's why we're trying to direct bury it.
I think the words aging gas line makes this a pretty easy one.
Sure.
Do we have a motion yet?
It's just too bad they couldn't bury some fiber with it as well. Anyhow, I'll offer a motion that we approve the easement for Xcel to bury their gas line.
Second.
For discussion? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Is it NSP or is it Xcel? It says, read the top of the deal. It says Northern States Power Wisconsin, Exhibit A, sheet 2 of 2.
That is our, I'm sorry, this is Carissa Seeley with Xcel Energy. That is our operating company. We do business as Xcel Energy.
Okay. I thought that was one of those retired
Costume.
names.
It's a costume.
That's what it is.
Motion passed. 2024 second quarter tourism funding recommendation now.
Mr. Mayor. The Tourism Committee met last week on August 8th to review second quarter grant applications. They received 2 applications, both from the New Richmond Area Chamber of Commerce, one for the Women's Business Expo and one for Park Art Fair. The recommendation from the Tourism Committee is to fund both of these requests. The Women's Business Expo is $1,711.96, and the Park Art Fair is $4,797.43. So we are just looking for approval from the council to make those reimbursements. And these are paid out of the room tax dollars that are collected.
Mr. Mayor, I offer a motion that we approve the requested 2024 second quarter tourism funding dollars.
I'll second. And do we need a separate motion for the carry forward funds, or is that just automatic? Thank you.
So we're carrying forward after we pay this about 86,000, or about 83,000? Approximately.
That sounds about correct, yes.
Then there's, have we received that from the 2 hotels that were late?
We are still waiting on one collection.
Is there,
We did receive one.
okay, is
One
there a
of the 2
penalty
that
if
were
they're late?
outstanding. So there is a penalty at the end of this month if they do not pay. So it's 30 days following the due date at the end of the quarter. So really, room tax dollars are due 30 days after the end of the quarter, but the penalty period then is effective at 60 days after the due
So
date.
if both would have paid timely, there would have been maybe 100, 200, 3,000 in the fund.
No, not that
No,
much.
we were waiting maybe for an additional $2,800 to $3,300 in room tax dollars.
Oh, okay.
Generally, quarter two is a lot less requests than quarter three and quarter four.
Next one with the summer, that'll be a bigger one then. Any other questions? Not take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Motion passes. Request for qualifications, marketing consultant.
Yes. Good evening again. On this particular agenda item, we discussed this at the May 16th meeting with the Tourism Committee. It was also discussed as in February earlier. The Tourism Committee would like to seek assistance in further enhancing marketing efforts of the community. And so as part of funds that were carried forward from 2023 room tax dollars, there was a portion of those funds that the Tourism Committee made a recommendation to set aside to assist in those marketing efforts moving forward. And so on May 16th, the Tourism Committee made a recommendation to move forward with a request for qualifications. The council approved that on June 10th. We did issue a request for qualifications. We received 6 proposals by the due date. And of those proposals, they were internally reviewed, and 3 firms were selected to do an interview with the committee. And the results of those interviews were then discussed with the Tourism Committee last week as well. Based upon the interviews that the committee did and based upon the recommendation from the Tourism Committee, we feel the best partner moving forward in our marketing efforts would be River Travel Media. Several aspects stood out favorably with pairing with them from the size of their firm. They have a great deal of experience with the Tourism Bureau of Wisconsin. They have a diverse portfolio in regards to county type of marketing to municipal type of marketing, special event. And also one thing that stood above with them is just the flexibility in their pricing structure to really tailor that to the needs of our community. So with that recommendation, we are recommending to the City Council this evening from the Tourism Committee to move forward with awarding River Travel Media the marketing aspects. The next steps in this would be for River Travel Media to be meeting with various stakeholders, including Tourism Committee, council members, Chamber of Commerce, those types of groups to get a better understanding of what makes our community unique. And then they would develop various proposals in regards to how to approach marketing efforts internally, regionally, statewide, and multi-state as well.
So we don't
What's the-
really know what it's going to cost yet until
So
they bring a proposal
in their
forward.
proposal, in a lot of the proposals that we received, there's a multi-year contract. We don't expect to exceed the $25,000 that was set aside, and River Travel Media had indicated that in their proposal as well. So we feel confident in the ability to achieve what we need to based upon our preliminary estimates and what they have outlined in their proposal.
I saw it was like 25,000, and you have to sign up for 3 years? Or
No,
can you get
no,
out
they're
earlier?
able to tailor that based upon what we would like to see done in that first year. So many of the other firms, it did require us to be in a multi-year contract. Where River Travel Media, we do not need to enter into a multi-year contract. Any information or marketing that is developed, that is the ownership of the city, and those things would be turned over if after the first year we feel like we're in a good position to manage that in-house. We are not committed to a long-term contract with them.
Here's it at 25,000 for 3 years, and then you get the website, I think it was a website.
That's if we decided to move forward with them to administer our website. So really on the request for qualifications, we're looking from what is the capabilities of the marketing firm? What's their range of diversity and offerings that they can do? What's their work and portfolio experience looking like? Once we find the partner, then we dictate what that budget looks like. The request for qualifications also gives us a range of what they would anticipate the expense to be for their services to be performed, but that actually, underneath the request for qualifications, that doesn't lock us into a pricing structure.
So,
I have a few comments, but I think it'd be good to get a motion on the floor, so I would move to make River Travel Media our media partner.
I'll second that motion.
So the comments I got, I'm sorry, why don't you go ahead first? That's fine.
I was gonna say, no, we can have discussion. When would they have their proposal ready to come back? Is that going to the tourism committee then, or?
Yeah, so the tourism committee would be kind of that first line of discussion with the marketing firm to establish and define the goals and objectives that we're looking to obtain in the short term in the 30 to 60 to 90-day window, and then looking out longer range as well. From what we define is really what's going to allow them to put together a plan of action, and then from that plan of action would be coming a budget, and then from there we would determine how to move forward from the budgetary perspective.
Next tourism committee meeting there probably.
Yep.
Is that in November then?
I think we'll have one probably before that.
Yeah, I think based upon moving forward with this, if the council approves this evening, we anticipate the tourism committee to be meeting more frequently, especially as we kick off these discussions and initiatives too, so.
I think the tipping point also for the committee was that with this particular partner, anything that has been produced for us and we don't, it's all ours. Where others were like, if you don't continue, all of that information stays with the consulting company. We don't. So I think it's money well spent with this group, and the whole committee was pretty excited about this.
I have a question. Where are the other proposals?
They're not included in the packet this
They're not in the
evening.
packet, no.
No.
Yeah, there.
They are part of
No,
the
they're not.
tourism committee agenda.
But we haven't had a chance to look at them.
Could have, because they were in the agenda. I
Yeah.
think all 6 proposals were
Typically,
there.
when it comes from a recommendation from the board, we just attach the recommended quote when it comes to the council.
So
when
we'll
it's
just
sent
go
to
by the
board.
recommendation of the board or committee.
That is what they are recommending, yes.
Okay, so we won't see the other proposals.
I can forward you the link to
No,
the
that's
tourism
okay.
committee, but
Just-
yes,
they're not in
they
the-
were published as part of the tourism committee
Okay.
agenda
Yeah,
package.
the agenda, it was, all 6 were there. When their agenda was put out, they had there the 6 proposals.
Okay, I was just talking about it in the packet.
Yeah, so usually when
tonight
we
it
bring
wasn't
whether it be a vehicle bid, RFP, RFQ, usually we'll only, in the packet itself, we'll just have the one that we're recommending, but if
So
you're
what are we
interested in
currently,
seeing the.
what are we currently doing in marketing in-house? Do we have anybody? Do we talk about this? Is this something we've been doing?
Yeah, I think it's been talked about in tourism committee a lot, and right now, city staff has been spending a lot of time trying to create some marketing ideas, and quite frankly, the city staff, first of all, aren't experts in it, but the good work they have done, it's just been too much, and it's too time-consuming. They have other. Michelle and Christy both have done a great job, Michelle particularly in the tourism side of things and being creative, but they just don't have the time to continue. Unless we want to fire her as the clerk and hire her as our marketing consultant.
I'd like
Not
to.
fire, that's a harsh term.
Pete,
So
where
it
do
really
you
is
see
a-
the
I was gonna say,
chamber?
really is a new
Wow,
initiative
gotta go.
for the community. The city itself isn't a tourism entity. We're not making commercials, billboards. We're not, we have general marketing like for the business and technical park from economic development standpoint, but not to this extent. And it's, I'd say it's also something that like the Chamber of Commerce is not doing either. They have their events, but from a
Is that
citywide.
normally what a Chamber of Commerce might be doing, is marketing the city?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Isn't that normally what a Chamber of Commerce is part of their responsibilities, is to market the city?
Some do. Yep, some do. Some it's a separate entity. So in some cases, I'll
Bigger
use
cities would have a separate entity.
I'll use Eau Claire, for example. They have
a
Chamber of
marketing
Commerce,
department, I'm
and
sure.
they have Visit Eau Claire, which is the tourism entity that's promoting events, trying to get events and things to come there, where the chamber is viewed more as a private business organization.
I'm going to ask the question, Pete, what do you see, just because you've been involved in this, what do you see the New Richmond Chamber's role in this? You have a marketing consultants.
They'll be asked. It will be interesting to see how much participation we get with them. but certainly we would love to have the chamber be our partner with this whole process.
I think to Craig's point slash question, you know, I guess I always thought that that was part of the chamber's mission is to promote the city. So
I would never ask a question with a point in it, Mike.
okay, so be it. But anyhow, I am curious about that because there's an
Me-
awful
me
lot
too.
of there's an awful lot of things that the chamber does under the umbrella of marketing the city in Richmond, and we're hiring consultants. And I will be interesting to get a report back on that, and I hope there is work that can be done together.
Any other question? Not take the roll.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Our motion passes. Next item, 1992 grader replacements in the CIP update.
Yeah, so originally in the 24 CIP, we were looking at replacing the 92 John Deere grader, which primarily gets used during the winter for plowing streets. We were hoping to replace that with a piece of equipment that's more versatile and able to be used all year long. After doing some demo of different equipment this summer, staff feel that a smaller loader would be the appropriate piece of equipment to replace the grader with. So at this time, we would be looking for authorization to go out for bids for a small loader. And so no obligation money right now. We'd go out for bids, bring the bids back to the Public Works Committee and then to council. So at this time, we're just looking for an authorization to put a bid package out.
So we have 210,000 budgeted for the grader.
Correct.
Do you hear a motion to approve going out and getting bids?
I'll offer that motion that's spelled out in the recommendation in the part of the packet. And I guess just for the record, for the benefit of people who can't read this, because it's not available to them, the Public Works Committee has recommended, so the motion is to approve replacing the 92 John Deere grader with a minimum 125 horsepower compact loader and authorizing staff to solicit bids. So you're going to be coming back after you get the bids and say, well, this is the one we're recommending. So that's my motion, Mayor.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
Cost estimates, Eric? You going new? You going less than 210?
Hopefully, yeah. No, I'm kind of trusting staff on that one, and Rob's probably going to head that up. So it may shock you, but I don't run the equipment every day, so I got to kind of trust them on what they're
Looking used? You're looking, or you don't know?
I think they'll have the options open. Sometimes when we go out for competitive bids, it's a little tougher to try and get them to propose a used one and still meet our specifications and still meet our needs. But we'll definitely look into leaving that option open.
And how many graders do we have? And we will still be using
We
graders.
still have one grader, yep.
And that's plenty?
Yeah, and yeah, they feel like this can help remove street, snow, and sidewalks and trails, so it's a little more versatile, where the grader's, 20 feet wide.
One job, yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions? Not? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Passes. Next item, ordinance number 613, protection of election officials.
So this ordinance was prepared by the city attorney. He's also prepared it for other municipalities with feedback also from the Clerks Association with the political climate environment today and with the upcoming presidential election. Municipalities are taking steps to try to prioritize the protection of election officials. We haven't had any issues here locally, but this is just trying to be more proactive. And hopefully we don't have those issues in terms of interfering with election officials, intimidation, harassment, those sorts of things. So the ordinance that's included in the packet is really outlines the conduct that would not be allowed and defines election officials, also addresses telecommunication messages. So if there was, if I know who the election workers are for the city in Richmond, I'm going to reach out to them via email or on social media and things like that to try to harass them. And this would go into effect upon adoption by the council. So this would be in effect then before the November election in the fall. Otherwise, if the council has any questions, feel free to ask myself or the city attorney here this evening. I believe Hudson just passed it at their meeting earlier last week. So
Yeah, there are a number of communities that I've shared this with. It came as a request from the city of Hudson. Drafted initially, Town of Star Prairie and a few others are looking at it as well, for no other reason than to fill the gap that codes in this area just are silent, and given the political climate, your election officials should be free to conduct the election without fear of harassment. That's purely the purpose of this ordinance.
Well, I was reading this, Nick, and it's conduct towards election official. I actually thought it was going to say conduct toward election and elected officials. But that's not in there. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we approve ordinance number 613, amending chapter 22 elections, of the municipal code of the city of New Richmond.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I just want to thank the election officials for the previous election and the elections in the future. They do a phenomenal job for only $10 an hour, what I've heard. And I think they just do a great job. That's my only discussion part.
Were you thanking them for elections in the future?
Yeah, they're good at it.
Wow, that's next level.
Yep. I'm trying to protect them here.
I'm with you, man.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello.
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Breeze.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Passes. Police Department tasers.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. The New Richmond Police Department in planning for budgetary purposes this year, kind of a history is we started back probably close to 20 years ago with Taser X26 electronic control devices, which our patrol officers carry every day, every shift. We started with 3, we moved up to 5. As those reached end of life, we transitioned to another Taser product through Axon called an X2, which changed things up a little bit. It was the newest technology, or newer technology at the time. And since we've gone to those are now reaching end of life as well. An electronic device that's out in the weather, the cold, the wind, the rain, every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, does have an end of life. So we're looking at upgrading this year. So our Taser instructor, Detective Dela Cruz, did some testing with them, had Axon send. There's an X7 out, which is also, many agencies are retiring their X7s, which we've never had. So a lot of agencies went from the X2 to the X7. We had not made that transition, and now they've come out with their newest technology, the X10. So in product review from our Taser instructor, he recommended going with an X10. So we originally got a bid, which was over $60,000 to go from 5 tasers up to 8, and then increasing it to the newest technology, to the X10. Since that time, when we started budget processing earlier in the year, Taser sent us an opportunity to cut that down to $55,775.20. And then around the end of May, they offered us an opportunity to finance those over 5 years with a small amount due this October of around $4,500 or so, that we would pay this year in October, receive the new equipment, and then we'd have 4 years that we could budget for in that $12,000 payment a year, which is how we actually bought our X2s as well, using that 5-year payment plan to kind of offset that budget cost. And if we were to have taken advantage of that in May, there was also some additional savings So that actually fell by the wayside. I talked with Taser. We had a new Taser rep. They offered to allow me the opportunity to bring that to public safety to look at, and then bring it to the full council tonight. So technically, this deal is off the table. However, they're extending it for the city of Richmond because I said I can't get it done that fast. We don't have public safety in a council meeting in the time they gave us. So public safety looked at this and recommended that it come to the full council for review. I think Rayanne's going to touch on a little bit how we're planning to pay for that now and into the future. But if we were to take advantage of this, it would save us an additional $4,396.80 over the 5-year quote. So, Rayanne?
But Chief, actually, Rand, before you talked about the finance plan, and it's just, here's the dollar amount, we're gonna let you pay it over 4 years. There's no
Correct.
interest. So that begs the question, if we said to them, well, if we wrote you a check tomorrow, figuratively, is there a discount? I would just be curious to know. Obviously, they're carrying the cost of this over 4 years, and maybe it makes the best sense from a budget standpoint, but is there a cost there or not for carrying that? We won't know unless they say, well, no, there is no discount for paying cash. So it would be curious to know the number. I don't want to hold this up, but I would be curious to know that number.
Yeah, and my understanding is that this was kind of a very short notice opportunity to take advantage of it. Don't take advantage of it, I don't know. The original quote was for over $60,000. I don't know if it goes back to that. If we write a check tomorrow, if it's that $60,000, $55,000 was their latest.
$775, but it doesn't make, if we were gonna pay the whole thing, it doesn't make sense that the price would go up. And
Right.
maybe there is no discount. I would just be curious to know if there is one. And
You can
is it an
It's not gonna hurt
advantage?
to ask.
It certainly isn't. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna offer a motion that we approve this opportunity with a caveat that we at least ask if there's a cash discount.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion now?
Chief, going from 5 to 8, are those 8 tasers going to be on the street at all times?
Basically, what we run into now is we have 5 tasers.
Yep,
They are pretty much on the road 24/7.
right.
What we don't have is we don't have tasers for our investigators when they go do search warrants. We don't have tasers for the deputy chief and I if we go out on an all-call day. And 8's still not going to cover on an all-call for like the parades and things like that. We're still not going to have tasers for everybody that potentially could be on patrol. But if we go do a search warrant, we might have 8 patrol officers, investigators, and a supervisor on scene for that, and some of them would
With
have
5
some-
tasers.
With 5 tasers. If we get up to 8, we're closer to being able to equip everybody, and you know how Murphy's Law works. The one that doesn't have it
have one.
needs it. So with our growing agency, the number of people that we have on patrol, these also, we in our X2s that we currently have, the batteries, when they're dead, they're dead. The X10s have a docking station and recharge, so we'll save money in battery purchases and stuff like that as we go.
Well, you'd be safer.
And the technology is just that much better. You know, it's electronic control devices have been evolving for the last 20 years, and
Yeah.
you know, it's like everything else that's electronic. It gets better with time.
I was just curious what you're
Yep.
going to do with the other 3.
Yeah.
And it would be appropriate to say that the proposal is just shocking.
Rayanne, I'm assuming this wasn't budgeted for, so where are the funds coming from?
Correct. So if we spread the payments over the 4-year period, the initial payment this year would just be over, just under $4,500 and would come out of the operating budget of the police department.
So there is money there.
There is money there that can be absorbed for that first year. In the second year, we do plan for equipment replacement under the capital replacement fund. And so that's where the second year source of funding would be coming from, is the capital replacement fund. We did have some funds earmarked there for recurring equipment turn for the police department, so the tasers would be paid for underneath that CIP for the remaining 4 years.
So what happens, let's say with Mike's, what Mike was talking about, let's say if you pay the full 55 or 54, whatever it is, and they give you a 10% discount, we have the money to do that then?
That would require then the full amount up front, and that's not budgeted for in the capital improvement.
So we
Fund.
would take it from another fund and then replace it then?
We could. I would have to look at options that would exist to do that.
That means if we could save another 10%, they've got their money right away. That might be a good option.
Yeah, we'll have to weigh what the potential cash discount looks like versus what,
Sure, yeah.
you know, the return on those funds and the, would be as well, so.
Can we use impact fees for this? Police impact fees?
No, we
No.
cannot, no. So
Okay.
impact fees can only go towards new projects. So impact fees.
This isn't a project, it's new equipment.
Placement.
Right, it can't go towards equipment replacement.
Okay.
It would be an existing piece of equipment that can't. However, the impact fees that we do collect for law enforcement go to pay the debt service for the expansion of the
Oh,
police department building.
okay.
So it
Thanks.
helps to reduce our overall debt levy.
I take the roll, please.
What's the question? Let me go back to the question. Buy them all at once
No, it's,
or buy them over the 4-year period?
I think what our, from
see
what,
what's the best.
from
Okay.
what we're understanding from staff, based upon the recommendation would be to proceed with a 4-year, but ask about a cash discount.
Okay.
And if advantageous, then we would explore paying up front versus amortizing it over a 4-year period.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, ordinance number 614, golf carts, minimum age of passengers.
So this item of business was discussed at the most recent Public Safety Committee meeting. Currently, we have ordinance that allows golf carts on local streets in the city of New Richmond. Not every street in the city, there are certain parameters around which streets you can operate a golf cart on. You do have to go to the police department. There's certain specifications that your golf cart must have in terms of having a seat belt and headlights, et cetera. The item of business tonight is in regards to the minimum age of passengers on golf carts. Now, again, this is golf carts that are operating on a public street, so this doesn't impact if someone wants to ride on the golf cart on the golf course here in town, or if they're riding the golf cart on their own private property. This is just for those that are operating on a city street. Currently, passengers must be at least 12 years of age. The Public Works Committee at their most recent meeting discussed potentially striking the minimum age requirement altogether. A lot of discussion on it. However, the recommendation from the committee was to amend the ordinance really to mirror the state requirement when it comes to car seats or booster seats, which would be a minimum age of 8, or there's a height and weight specification. And so that was the recommendation from the committee.
That's for a car, right?
That's where that
Not for a golf cart. The state recommendation?
there isn't a state statute regarding
Right.
golf carts for
Okay.
In terms of passengers. So, so just wanted to kind of summarize some of the discussion. I know we have members of the Public Safety Committee here that can kind of speak more to the discussion, but the recommendation from the group was to approve the ordinance that's included in the packet this evening, and that reads that all passengers shall be at least 8 years of age or meet the minimum height and weight requirements to be out of a booster seat, which are a minimum height of 4 feet 9 inches tall and a weight of at least 80 pounds. So that was the recommendation from at the Public Safety Committee here most recently.
Let's have a motion on that.
I'll move to approve the Public Safety Committee's recommendation.
Second it.
Now discussion.
We all agreed to this at the Public Safety Committee. It was a unanimous vote. And I think this is just a
No,
minor.
it wasn't, Ron.
What?
It wasn't a unanimous vote.
Refresh my memory then, please.
I think one of the members voted no.
I think Alderman Gardner voted no.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. That's my mistake then. I thought it was unanimous,
I
but-
wasn't there, but I heard that the first 2 times it didn't pass, and then for some reason it passed the 3rd time, but it was added, the weight restriction and age, but that is for a motor vehicle which has airbags and has a lot better protection. But now the golf cart can go down the street, it gets hit by a car accidentally. I think that a young person, maybe 6 years old, could die or be severely hurt. So I'm not sure what changed the mind when it was turned down twice. The chief is against this. He said he didn't want this. And to me, this is called a safety committee. And I think the way I see it, like I say, I wasn't there, but you're there for the safety of our residents. And I think this takes away from the safety because, like I say, if it ever gets hit by a car, somebody's going to die. And then,
Mr. Mayor, I think public safety is a stretch in this recommendation or in this. If you are truly going to worry about public safety and whether someone is injured on a golf cart, then I think we should take all bicycles off our streets, all scooters off our streets, all
I don't see
electric
a
vehicles.
6-year-old
Riding a
on the street.
bicycle?
You gotta be 8 years old.
Well, 8 years old, but to me, in a golf cart, how many people is this going to affect in our city?
Does it really matter how many people it affects?
Well,
Well, the public safety's had conversations about one individual person that wanted to do something. And the public safety said, we're not going to change our ordinance for one person. I haven't heard anything from anybody as far as wanting this to happen. I didn't hear anything from anybody that wanted carts to be on the road either, but I just think it's a public safety issue that is really not making the public any safer. That's my opinion.
other council people have any input on this?
Yeah, I had, spent a considerable amount of time thinking about this, and I guess it came down to me that this was a request by just one individual to do this, and then we had another bit of information that came in from another citizen that said they didn't want this. So we had one person that wanted it and one that didn't, and that's all we heard. I like to make votes on things that affect, to me, it's much more important to affect a lot of people than to change a law for one person. I personally have a hard time doing that. So that's why I voted against it that day. And certainly, I don't know how safe golf carts are. They make me personally kind of nervous. I work in a hospital. I'm going on my 49th year now, and I've seen accidents from, SUVs, bikes, and all this stuff, of course. But so, I don't know. I'm still going to, I still will vote against it. That's my reason, when it's
Let me ask,
one individual.
Let me ask one question here. If there was a motion to table this, would we take care of that first before we vote? How does that work?
Reason the table is,
Well, I know there's a lot of controversy about just having this golf cart ordinance in the first place. And maybe it's time that the the whole council sits down and has a good discussion on this and decide where we really want to go on this thing anyway. Do we want to make some changes, or do we want to get rid of this golf cart ordinance completely? And if I can do it, I don't know if I can do it, if I can make a motion to table this and where the whole council could have a discussion on this at the next work session.
We've spent a considerable amount of time on this with 2, at least, maybe 3 public safety committee meetings. The council's heard this once and denied it already. I know I've talked to the chief about this already, and he's not in favor of it. There's a multitude of time that we've already spent on this, but I guess Ron can he make a motion to table if he's not in the room?
He can.
Yeah,
Ron, I think
guess
Ron, this is Pete. I'm
Yeah.
the one that's been pushing this because I live in the district of the golf course, and I've had several of my constituents wanting to have this happen. So you may not have heard from a number of people, but you've certainly heard from me. But I think to push this subject any further down the road doesn't make any sense. I would not be in favor of tabling this, or this agenda item.
And Mr. Mayor, just to, I think, answer Councilmember question, the ordinance is the ordinance. The only question before the council tonight is a proposed amendment. Any motions would only be related to the amendment and not to the underlying ordinance.
Craig, tell me why I know you're against this change. What's the reason?
Well, a couple of things that I presented to Public Safety Committee was I found a few research projects out, and I apologize I didn't bring them tonight, out of some universities that did some studies on golf carts and golf cart injuries. And I did that research back when we actually enacted this golf cart ordinance. And I believe that's why Public Safety set the age at the time of 12 years old, because there's some studies, and Alderman Gartner would probably have better information than I would on head injuries of children 12 and under go up significantly on golf carts, is the research that I've seen. And it's because they hit their head on the dash. If they stop fast, if they're in an accident, because there are no airbags, if there is a lap belt, they tend to fold over, and that's where they hit their head. At 12, that decreases, apparently considerably. I don't know if there's any studies out there that refute that. That's one of the few that I could find on golf cart injuries in children. Does the safety equipment that's been in our ordinance help that? Yes. But, I'm looking at it from a public safety standpoint. When we talked about golf carts originally, when we enacted this ordinance, I felt like it was a safety issue back then with not being able to really drive on Knowles Avenue anyway. It really limits a lot of people on where they can and can't go. If you're out in Prairie and you buy a golf cart, you're kind of limited to Prairie. If you're in Fox Run, you're limited to Fox Run. People are limited from the south end to the north end. And I get it's their personal choice, and if they have a golf cart, it's just a safety issue. We've got more big trucks on our roads with the intermodal coming through town. We've got a lot of traffic on Knowles Avenue. People are crossing. And, when we originally enacted this, my recollection was there was one person kind of driving this, and we put the ordinance in place. The most golf cart permits that I've had since the enaction of this is 3. That was last year. This year we've had 2. So we're not talking about a large portion. But the other reason is I think that there's probably more people that have come to me in the city of Richmond wondering when we're going to enact SUVs on our roadways and ATVs on our roadways. I've had a lot more inquiries from that, and I know that the Public Safety Committee spoke out considerably when we first enacted this, that there was really no appetite for that in the city of Richmond. So that was kind of my premise behind it, but basically it's from a public safety standpoint and protecting our children. And I completely understand where Pete's coming from with the bikes and the different play vehicles we see, and we do enforcement on that and education on that. We have bike patrol officers helping, trying to educate the public and keep people safe. You know, it's, if you go to some resort communities, there's golf carts everywhere. And I know that it's accepted in some places. It just, for me, from a public safety standpoint, with the way the city in Richmond is laid out, with a state highway running right through the middle, it just seemed like a safety issue for me.
Any other questions?
And I do think the Chief Craig has a lot of good points. The safety issues, I mean, he gathered his information and presented it to us. And I can certainly understand, it was a nice, good information there, Craig, and I can certainly understand how you feel.
Okay, now this is just, like you said, it's just a change our ordinance. If we
That's right.
say yes, then it's a change. If not, it's gonna go back to the way it was. So, if there's no other,
Okay, so
if there's no other
what
discussion,
was the motion again?
motion is to, change it to 8 years old and the weight restriction. That's the motion right now, and that's what's on the floor. So if there's no other discussion, Michelle can take the roll.
Alderman Montello,
No.
Alderman Kittle,
No.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
No.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
The 3-3?
it is.
Get that graphing calculator out
I
again.
am saying no. Motion doesn't pass. Okay, next item, second quarter financial report for 2024.
Mayor and council, in your packet is the full financial report for second quarter. This evening, I'm just going to go over some of the highlights of a revenue and expenditure perspective. But if there's any additional questions, feel free. There isn't a motion that's required on this. It's just as an information to the council. If you can maybe go to the second page, revenue. So as of June 30th, our total revenue collected was just over $5 million, which accounted for 57% of our budget collected to date. That's in alignment with prior years. Pretty consistent in regards when we look at second quarter, property tax is the largest contributing collection to that. Also, in the first quarter, many of our aids are collected, or half of our aids are collected, so our transportation aid, the first half of that payment is received. Some of the notable drivers and variances to budget include investment income, which we have seen a significant positive variance. We have about $241,000 in earnings as of June 30th. And again, it's just favorable market conditions for those short-term investments. So we certainly are seeing higher than budgeted numbers on the investment income, and we anticipate that to continue through the next quarter. Also, street excavation fees or right-of-way permitting are significantly above budget. We collected $94,000 through second quarter, and again, that's due to the large amount of fiber optic that is being installed. And then lastly, too, we did receive additional grant funding related to airport funds through the CARES Act, and then a federal airport grant. So we received $43,000 in grants for the airport up there, and then also a $2,000 safety equipment grant as well. So revenues are trending nicely. They're trending, slightly above where we have been in budget from those main drivers. So we would anticipate that we're right on target for where we would anticipate mid-year. From an expenditure perspective, I think you need to go down a couple of pages. Right there, this shows just the general fund. So the subsequent pages will show each department in greater detail. I'm just gonna go over a high level from the general fund in total. So total expenditures to date through June were $4,320,000, which accounts for 49% of the budget expended. Again, Mid-year, kind of from a budget expenditure perspective, we anticipate that number to be close to that 50%. So again, kind of right on target in regards to our expenditures. Some of the notable drivers of the budget are those beginning of the year expenses that we fully pay for, such as the ambulance services, our assessing contracts, auditing services that occur at the beginning of the year. So those larger expenses are fully incurred at the front end of the year, and then kind of balance out as we progress through the balance of the year. So they'll show us a slight unfavorable variance in the beginning, but by the end of the year, we should remain on target and on balance. Some areas of just noted unfavorable variances do include, we had some significant repairs and maintenance in regards to ladder truck at the fire department. That is a shared expense amongst the jurisdictional shares, but the city's share of that is about 52%. We were aware of some of the expense for those ladder repairs, and so at the end of 2023, we did carry forward funds to cover our share of those anticipated repairs to the fire truck. However, in the budget, it will show as a variance until we do our budget amendment at the end of the year and appropriate those funds back in to cover that expense. Also, there was a retirement at the first of the year. That retirement is funded through the cash that we have been setting aside to cover those liabilities, but again, that gets appropriated in at the end of the year, so it will show as a variance to budget. The unfavorable.
Question?
Sure.
What's in that fund? And how
In
much are we
the-
putting in a year? And I'm just asking if we're caught up.
Yep. So the plan has been for the last, I think we put that plan in place in 2022.
At least 2-3 years ago.
Yep. So we've been incrementally increasing how much we contribute each year. In 2024, the contribution is $65,000.
So we're not caught up.
We are not caught up, but we're still on target to reach our 2028 target where it would be fully funded.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Yeah, so overall expenditures, again, we've had some areas of anticipated that we were planning for in 23 to cover some of those expenses in 24. Overall, things are kind of progressing nicely. The mild winter has kind of helped to reduce some of the costs that we saw in the first quarter of 2023 with those significant snowfall events. So right now, at this point in time, we do anticipate that we're going to achieve budget and potentially come in slightly under. And then just from our debt payments to date through second quarter, total principal and interest payments were $722,181. The significant portion of our debt is paid in the first half of the year and then also in the second half of the year. So our next significant payments will come up in September and October timeframe. And we have just over about $2 million in total debt payments for 2024. That is all that I have for this evening in regards to second quarter. I mean, I think everything is just going well, which is good. Nothing of, I guess, surprise at this point in time or unforeseen coming up. So we'll keep you posted. And then the third quarter report, we will be bringing forward in October meeting.
Are you looking for a motion to accept?
There is no motion that is needed.
Thank you.
Information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions for Rayanne at all, or not? Not, any communication or miscellaneous?
Michelle, you want to
well,
go first?
Yes, I was going to thank all the election workers, but Alderman Kittle did it so well that I don't need to. But I do want to just say, even though she doesn't want me to, a happy birthday to Deputy Clerk Christy Johnson joining us here this evening on her birthday celebration. What better way? Anyone else who wants to come down for a council meeting on their birthday, also welcome.
Well, I wish I wouldn't have had to guess that. I'm surprised it's not on the side of her truck
I-
announcing it, so. Oh, nice.
I didn't hear that.
Craig, try and tap that.
I can't.
You don't have a set of those?
What's that?
You don't have a set of those?
So I just wanted to let the council know and that I had been asked from St. Croix County Sheriff Scott Knutson to help with a houses of worship presentation, protecting houses of worship presentation. It was kind of a forward-thinking idea. We were able to bring in somebody from the cybersecurity and infrastructure from the federal government, and there was also, we had FBI agents drive up from Milwaukee office to kind of view how we did this. And it went this morning. We had 85 faith leaders at the Baldwin High School that were present for this program. Super well received. We've actually are probably going to be getting some requests to put some stuff together on a higher level to help protect houses of worship in our area. So I just thought that was really a great opportunity for me, for one, a good learning process, and kind of working with other entities from different levels of government to try to figure out how to protect, as you know, my passion for active threat response and things like that. So this kind of fell in that realm, but it went very well. There was a large contingency from our New Richmond faith-based community that were there, and just thought that the council would probably like to be apprised of that.
Good job, chief. Thank you.
Chief, can I ask for an update on the dog? Where are we at with that? Are they in service yet?
Oh, yeah, yep.
Okay.
Officer Benke and his canine partner Coda have been on the streets and doing a very, very good job.
How's it going?
Really good.
Good.
Really good.
Faster, the dog or Officer Benke?
I think the dog is faster in the short run, but if you get out to that 26-mile mark, I think Officer Benke.
Got him.
On the wrestling mat, Benke will do better. On the wrestling mat, Benke will do better.
Yeah, the dog does not have a chance on the wrestling mat.
Any other questions or something like that?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we go into closed session.
Wisconsin Statute 19.85 1E.
Second.
Take the roll, please.
Alderman Breeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Can't.
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
We're in closed session. I need the bathroom.